You want to start at Lori?
It was supposed to be a surprise.
Oh, okay, well, let's start with the person at the end. We don't know her name
Just
yet.
kidding. My name is Lori Mederos, and I am transferring to UT, and I am a social work major. Applause.
Applause.
Thank you.
And if you're online, make sure you use the little reaction with the clapping hands so Lori can knows.
Yeah, thank you.
No more cats.
Oh.
Hi, my name is
Watch
Shannon Alejandra Aguirre. I will be transferring to the University of Texas in Austin. I am a psychology major.
Yeah, applause. That's exciting.
Hook 'em.
Hello, my name is Devin Bruno. I am transferring out of state to the University of Colorado at Boulder, and I'm a geography major.
They like y'all. Okay. So the first question we have for you all is, what made you select the university that you are transferring to? And what made you select the major that you are going to be studying?
I got this. Okay, if I'm being completely honest, the very main, probably 95% of the reason that I chose to go to UT is because UT, if you're under a certain income, they will pay for your education. And for that reason, I worked my tail off to make sure that my GPA was high enough so that I could fall under those categories so that I could get my education paid for. And I chose social work because of my history, because I am a non-traditional student. I did have a son. I say did because he passed away and he was a shaken baby survivor. Because of that, I went into social work. So, yep.
I mean, honestly, I can honestly tell you that I thought I was going to be a Longhorn since I was in 9th grade. And it was just something that never came off my mind through the whole process of like, where are you going to transfer to? I'm like, I'm going to transfer to the University of Texas. And they're like, what's option 2? And I'm like, I have no option 2. I'm transferring to the University of Texas. But one of the reasons why I chose psychology, I really thought that after the pandemic, mental health really became such an important aspect in my personal life. And I really felt that child adolescent therapy was something that was continuing to grow and something that I really wanted to encompass.
I chose the University of Colorado at Boulder. I was looking at whatever options I could. I was looking at schools in Michigan. I was looking at schools in New York. I was looking all over the United States and even in Canada, just to see what was out there. And I found that I liked the location. Colorado is beautiful if you haven't been. Also, their geography program, they're very renowned for their physical sciences. And I picked geography because geography is a very broad job field. So with the geography degree, you can do many different things. And I really enjoy being outside. I'm a very hands-on person. So I figured that, I might live in Colorado and be hands-on in the mountains, and just sounds like a good place for me.
Are you counting down to not be in 110 degree?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I need some snow back in my life.
Okay, next question. And I know each of you have lots of things to say about this. What resources did you use at ACC to help you be successful?
Okay, brace yourselves because there's a lot, y'all. Definitely the transfer services. I'm going to use this word lightly, but I use Renee and Victor like crazy. I use them for everything. I went to Victor several times and was like, read my essay. Here's my essay. What do I need? What do you think of my packet? Let him go over it. Same thing for Miss Renee. I was like, what do I need to do? What do you have? What events are happening so that I can go to them? I went to the campus tours. I also used, if I'm talking about ACC in general, I definitely used the writing lab, the tutoring lab. I was in there all the time. I'm on a first name basis with my writing tutor, and I love her. It was at the South Austin campus, and she helped me go over both of my essays, take stuff off because it was really long. Help me take them off, help me fix them, help me edit them. I'm also, I was an officer with PTK, the Phi Theta Kappa, the Honor Society here at ACC, and being a part of that group really helped me utilize my resources as far as like making sure that my academic resume looked really good, because I really wanted to build that, because at UT, that's what they really look at, your academic resume. So I made sure to use that group so that I can build my resume, and then using the professors, my advisors, for letters of recommendation. So I definitely use them, and yeah, those were some of mine.
As far as like the main programs that really helped me succeed and get into UT was probably the honors program. Through the honors program, I was able to secure an internship, actually 2 internships, and that really helped me stay on campus before I actually got admitted. So that really helped me kind of feel more oriented versus just saying, oh my God, I'm here at UT. So, and the other one was like, for sure, it was the TRIO program, and of course, Transfer Services. I was probably here for every Zoom meeting that I could possibly be at, really just to gain some context of what was necessary, what was needed of me, and what were some areas of improvement that I can learn from and help me cover so I could really expand my resume.
1 second. Were you also in Ascender?
Yes.
Do you want to talk a little bit about that program?
For sure. So when I first started in 2021, one of the like paramount programs, because I was non-traditional, was the Ascender program. For the reasons that they really had very intimate classroom settings. So I was really able to adapt to college life at my own pace with other peers that were also going through that, transition of, okay, this is our first year. A lot of us were first generation, and that really helped us pick up our confidence in being able to persevere throughout the semesters. So that was like my first year experience. And it wasn't until like the following year where I got into the honors program and the TRIO program, and I really took advantage of those resources.
And I will add that Ascender, honors, maybe PTK, will be at the resource fair tomorrow. Devin, do you remember the question? I know I keep talking.
Yeah, I remember
Okay,
the question.
good.
There's not much, I've used everything that they've used to a degree in the same way. The Transfer Center and the Career Center is something that I've used quite a lot just to help with like my academic resume and just figuring out what college to go to in general. I've met with Ram and Victor and Hector, some of our specialists, to just get the skills that I need while I'm here and while they're free with your tuition. And I took a full advantage of that, and it ended up helping me a lot get into the school that I am in currently. I also use the advisors a lot. I met with my advisor, Mrs. Lee, I don't even know, like 5 or 6 times a semester, just talking about what will transfer, what can I do to get ahead on my application, and applying for internships and things like that. I just found everything, including the tutoring. I would use tutoring for the writing as well, for my application essays, for especially I applied to UT, and Boulder required an essay. So I had to get an essay revised multiple times so I can submit it for my application. And there isn't anything, I think, that I would say that you could not, I just stumbled on my words, but every one of these tools is very useful, and at every point, even if for just classes in general, I use these tools just to see what was out there. I don't think I have anything else.
Also, the student services, is it the Student Advocacy Center?
Yes, and they will be here
definitely use
tomorrow
them.
too.
I definitely use them because they also, being a non-traditional student and as an older student and a parent, they also had resources to help me I ended up not taking the funding for childcare, but they have childcare funding. They have different resources like for emergency services or finding just resources if you needed groceries, if you needed, again, childcare, just different things like that that may come up. They're definitely there for that, especially for mental health services too. They can definitely help you facilitate those things and have access to them.
Yeah, I'll add to that. Our mental health counselors will be here tomorrow at the resource fair as well. I'm going to tell a story about you, Devin.
Go for it.
Okay, when I first met Devin, it was through Transfer Week, which is something we do in the fall. And then another day we were tabling, he came by, and I said, I just keep seeing you everywhere. He said, I'm learning all the resources. It's in my tuition. I'm going to use everything here because I'm already paying for it. So now he's a successful transfer student. Someone clap, yeah. Okay, what was the transfer application process like for you?
Oh boy, y'all.
Wait, can you share any challenges that you experienced during this process that maybe the students in this room or the students online can learn from?
I will say, first of all, just being born and raised here in Austin, everybody talks about going to UT, but they always say it's only the smartest people, only the top 10% or only the top 6% can go, and you have to be super smart to be able to go, and it's filthy expensive, and just only the most rich, wealthy people and the most smartest people can go there. So of course I had these, thoughts in my head, and I was like, surely I won't be able to do it. And now coming in as an older student, I was like, these young people are so much smarter than I am. But I was like, you know what? I need a free education, and because I can't afford it. So I'm gonna just let's go. What's the worst they can say is no. So looking at the list of things then of seeing like everything that you had to provide just to apply for UT, it was like you have to have 2 essays, you had to have letters of recommendation, you had to have an academic resume, you had to have you had to fill out the form, you had to pay the money. There was just a long process, and it was very intimidating, very overwhelming. But I was like, you know what? Just take it step by step. Start building your resume from the very beginning, from when you first start school. I started school last January in the spring, and I made sure to look at the UT, like what UT requires for that particular major and what courses transfer over, because I didn't want to waste my time again, as an older student, I didn't want to waste any time taking any extra courses that I didn't need. So I made sure to look at that course, look at the course load for ACC, see which ones overlap, see which ones transferred in, because again, I didn't want to waste my time. So that's what I did, made sure, go through my list. The application process, it's daunting, it's hard, but once you get it in, you get it in, and then it's a waiting period. I will say the waiting period was actually worse than the actual application process. And she can attest to it, because I ended up scheduling a Zoom with her, and I was like, should I have an option B? Should it, maybe I should rethink, maybe staying at ACC and getting a different, going into a different major, just a lot of that doubt. So it's not even the application process. I think the hardest time is the actual waiting to see if you're accepted, because I believe we had our applications in March 1st. Or March 8th, I think was the last day to submit like all your letters of recommendation, but I didn't get my decision until June 8th. So it was like a long process, and then you're still doing your courses, and so that stress is getting to you. So it can build up, but just my biggest advice would be just to use your resources, utilize everything that you can, because again, it's like they said, you already paid for it. So utilize every single resource that you can, because everybody here wants you to succeed, and your advisors want you to succeed, the transfer service people want you to succeed. So just use them. For a lack of a better set of words, use them. That's what they're there for. So that's mine.
I think that one of the most difficult things was the waiting game, for sure. However, I did plan accordingly. So for me, for example, I knew that between March 1st all the way till June 15th, which was literally the day that I got my acceptance, I already had something planned for that. So I was already part of the UT fellowship. that's part of ACC. And so that really helped me stay busy. I was already on campus. I was visiting the campus. I was getting to know faculty in campus. And I was already thinking of what my backup plan would look like. And so I think as far as like me not having a second option for a college, I did make up for that knowing that I did have more options even if I did get a no. And my process was, just trying to get to know the faculty, trying to have more under my belt, more experience, but also representation matters. And for me, it was important for me to be in that school and make sure that I was going to fit into that space. So that gave me a lot of time to know that, do I belong here? Do I not belong here? And should I have a second option? So, but as far as like what was the most difficult part, I would say for sure it is the waiting game. But if you do plan ahead and you are ahead of the schedule, you can stay on top of that and know that whether the decisions that you correlate with what it is you eventually want to do.
Very well said. Out of state is a lot different than in-state applications. Does anyone in here transfer out of state or planning to transfer out of state? Oh, we got a few. So out of state applications are a bit different. Most of the in-state applications are either done through like Common App or Apply Texas. Out of state, at least in my case, the University of Colorado at Boulder had their own application process that each student has to go through only if you're out of state. The steps to get in are pretty much the same. It's just a lot more tedious since you can't, drive to UT Austin because, that's only 15 minutes down the road where, Colorado is 14 hours away. Some of the big things were transcripts. It takes a lot longer for those transcripts to get in because it's farther away. And they do request things like high school transcripts, where in my case, my high school wouldn't send my transcript out of state. So I had to drive my transcript from, here to Boulder. So there's a lot more difficulties when going out of state in the sense of just that tediousness of the bureaucracy part of it. But the same requirements are, you need an essay, your academic resume, your transcripts. They're all pretty much the same requirements. It's just if you're in a different state. I know California and some of the other states require different things, so look into what state you're looking into. I know California has its own things that they do differently than, say, Texas or Colorado. Also, for things like Arkansas, Oklahoma, and New Mexico, there's different things than there are for Colorado, Michigan, New York. Every state is different, so I would do a lot of research when looking to transfer out of state. But then I would also say the waiting game also is harder because you don't really know what's going on. They're 14 hours away. They don't know, if they got your transcript or whatnot. So I was being very persistent in calling their office, getting whatever information I needed on a daily basis, and just making sure that everyone in their office knew my name and knew my number when I picked up. But yeah, that was some of the difficulties. Just the transcripts were the biggest one for me, was just getting those accepted by their school. As well as like the high school transcript. That was probably the biggest.
And Devin, when you said you drove your transcript 14 hours, some people gasped.
Yeah.
But you did other things on this trip, right?
I did. I was proactive.
Okay. What did you tell us more about this trip you took?
It was very nice. I took a trip to Boulder. I was like, well, I got to do this anyways. I might as well make it a little vacation. And I went and explored the city. I also got tours done of the school, so I saw the departments that I was potentially getting into. I met my advisor. I met with every faculty member that I would be talking to on the phone. That way, when I called them, they would know who they're talking to instead of, just a random person on the other end of the phone. Just kind of that persistence of getting the faculty to know who you are and getting those people to know who you are, just kind of makes the process a little easier, especially since if you know who they are, you know what they do, you know what they can help you with, along with throughout the process. But overall, the process didn't take too long other than the transcripts. So if you are looking for out of state, maybe just, contact your high school before application and make sure they can get your transcript out.
I didn't have this question on the list for you all, so I'm going to surprise you. Shannon talked about fit. She said, I was on campus. I wanted to see if I felt like I belonged there. What are some of the things that you all did to know that a university was either for you or not for you? Did you go to campus? Yeah, you want to talk about that?
For me, I wanted to do something that was part of UT exclusively and see if I could possibly get in to see if that would improve my chances. So one of the things I did was I applied for a summer research program in January. It was a really highly competitive program, required extensive faculty surveying. It also required 2 additional letters of recommendation, and only 5 students were selected nationwide. And so they were looking for a little bit of a shameless plug there, but no, what they were really looking for was, they wanted diversity. They wanted somebody that represented different parts of the population, not just exclusive to UT, but all across the nation. And so I really, really, really challenged myself with this program. And I said, I'm going to get into this program. And ironically enough, when it came down to the application, I was just like, I could do more, but I'm tired. And, I'm like, I'm done. Like, I can't do anymore. This is the best I have right now. I'm going to turn it in and see if it works. But luckily it did work for me. And one of the main things, and this is like something that she can probably elaborate on, but like when it came down to orientation, for me, orientation meant nothing. Because I always felt like I was already oriented by the group that I was around in. And so I was already at UT, talking to UT students and mingling with UT students. And so that's what really helped me gain that awareness of like, wow, I do belong here. But another thing was also from an academic standpoint, I knew that research was so important for me. And that's one of the things that really community colleges don't focus on, and that's research. And that was something that was very important to me and I wanted to know more about. And honestly, they can say whatever they want to say about what it is to get accepted to any university, but really what universities want are well-rounded students, somebody that, really represents what they encompass or what they embody. So for me, it was just really just doing that work of trying to find myself in that campus and see if I really fit in. So that really helped me for sure.
Repeat the question. Was there anything you did beforehand to know that UT was the right fit for you?
If I'm being completely honest with y'all, seriously, I'm going to give you my short version of how it came to be for me to even be in school. Again, I told y'all about my son's passing. I was 8 months pregnant when my son, or 7 months pregnant when my son passed away with my now 8-year-old. After that, I was like, I'm not leaving anybody with my kids. So of course I was a stay-at-home mom. My husband worked, so I was able to stay home with them. Come, I guess, December, Thanksgiving 2021, I was in my head. One of my best friends is actually an ACC advisor. And I was in my head because I wanted to get a job. My kids were now in school. So I was like, okay, I can get a job now. But unfortunately, every job that I wanted required a degree. So I didn't have the degree, but I had the experience because I had been doing child abuse prevention, giving child abuse prevention speeches and everything. So I I was in my head. We were at Friendsgiving, and my best friend was there, and she was like, Lori, what's up with you? And I was like, I think I'm just in my head. I'm just not in the mood. And they were like, this isn't like you. And I was like, I know. It's just, I don't know what to do. She said 5 words. She said, Lori, just go to school. And I was like, what? I was like, I can't go to school. I'm 40 something, 40 something. Yeah. Well, my kids will say I'm 26. So yeah, I'm 26. I said, I'm 40 something. I was like, I can't go to school. She was like, ACC, you can go to school. The following week, I was scheduling my TSIs and then filling out my FAFSA form. So for me, that's what it took. And then once I started, I started January 2021, being an older student, I was like, well, I don't have a lot of time. Let me just get it done. So I started taking classes and I ended up enjoying it and I loved it. And I'm kind of bittersweet because, again, I don't know is it a surprise? Can I say it now? I took my last final exam this week and I'm kind of bittersweet because I'm like, well, that's it. I don't want to leave ACC. I've had 1.5 semesters here, so I'm kind of bummed. But again, utilize every resource and you too can transfer out to another school. So that was my thing.
Devin, did you apply to other schools or visit other schools?
I did. I just wanted to say that that's amazing. Going back to school, it's a very difficult thing to do. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think every person has their own takeaway from what they want in a school. You know, some people want to have, you know, the best social experience. Some people want the absolute best engineering experience. For me, I just wanted a place where if I went, I would feel proud to be like, oh, I'm a student at this school. Like this is something that was important to me. I visited multiple schools. I visited UT, Texas Tech, Texas State, A&M. And each campus has their own things that I enjoyed. I don't think any of the schools were bad. You know, all the colleges in Texas here are fantastic. But you know, when I went to Boulder, there was just something that they had in their environment that really spoke to me. They had the community there was very, very well rounded. The class sizes were very, very small, and the faculty and students were actually really close to each other. The alumni programs were very part of your life. You know, you got to see where people actually ended up, which is a very cool thing to see. And to me, that was cool. I like that sense of a community and just being outdoors too. They have, you know, I don't even know how many state parks right next to their school. I love being outdoors and camping and things like that, especially skiing, you know, it's real close.
Have you skied before?
No, I haven't, but I'm
okay.
gonna try. Cross my finger. But yeah, it's, you know, every person wants something different. I wanted that kind of community, and Boulder had that community offer. I will say Texas Tech was my second choice, and they had a fantastic community. Their tour and the people that helped me through that application process were fantastic as well. And they actually visit this school quite often, their admissions office, so I'd check them out if you're interested. But yeah, that was mine.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
So y'all are starting your new school in the fall. You're gonna forget about us soon. No? Okay. How did you say how? You're gonna remember us, right? Okay. Have you attended orientation for your new university? Have you met with an advisor? And how has that process been?
We actually did our orientations last week, but she can tell you a little bit more about that process. But for me, I did orientation online. So I didn't get to actually be on campus. I went online. It was interesting. I'm more of an in-person person. So for me, it was kind of like I felt a little bit disconnected, but they were great. They did, it was a 2-day orientation where we were in groups with other students. you're grouped by basically what your major is, and being that the Steve Hicks School of Social Work, there's a lot less transfer in. So and that was another thing. We were in an orientation with other transfer students, not incoming freshmen. So that helped. And so we were in smaller groups that we were able to get with, and then we met with our advisors. And then when it actually came, we met with our advisors, and they kind of, talked about, well, what do you want to do? You were individual. What courses do you have? Let's see, what do you need to take? Then the next day, on the second day, we met with in our group with our advisors. So for me, I was in a group with like 15 people, and then we had 2 advisors, and then the registration went live at 1:00. Well, they stayed on the Zoom with us while we registered for our courses, so that if there was oh my gosh, I can't get into this class, or, oh, there's only a wait list, they were there to go in that moment and say, okay, let me remove this. Okay, well, how about you take this class? Well, let's switch this around. And they actually, so that you have your schedule. And that was done. It took probably 20 minutes to get it done. And then on just day before yesterday, we were able to actually go on there and pay for your courses, and you got the big banner that's saying, congratulations, you're now registered, everything's set, here you go. So that's it.
I couldn't say more than that. I mean, she did a really good job. Yeah, so my orientation was in person. So there was a lot of touring the campus, and there was a lot of like revisiting the good old UT. So that was a lot of fun. But for me, orientation, really, I was already on campus. Technically, I'm on campus right now, so UT, don't be mad, I'm at work. But
They're watching on
yeah.
Zoom right now.
Yeah, and so I kind of had my whole group working for me. So the whole group was like, "Don't pick this professor," and the other students like, "I took that last year. Don't take that last year." And then, so UGSs, there's so many programs that are available for transfer students. So that's what's really nice about being a transfer student coming from ACC, is the fact that UT has an open hand for these ACC students coming in, saying, "We accept you." And because we know that it's a difficult time for a transition to happen, we have so many available resources, and there's a lot of flagging of your name, whether you know it or not, of this is a non-traditional student, this is a special student, this is something that they really take pride in. So they really walk you through all the steps of how to feel a little bit more oriented, but also not feel freaked out like, oh my God, I'm in a room with a whole bunch of freshmen, because that can be overwhelming, because Gen Z is crazy, no offense, Gen Z, but y'all are great, but also a little entitled. And so it's a lot to take in, but they're aware of these things. So there's definitely small groups available for you guys to be able to transfer in and feel like, oh, I know her. And so you kind of go into the fall knowing that there's other transfer students that are in the same shoes as you are, and that there's organizations that are going to help you and follow you all the way through the end of fall.
And they kind of do the same thing. I don't mean to interrupt, but they kind of do the same thing with, it's not the Ascender program, but it's kind of like you take your UGS, for me it's a trick, but you take your that UGS course with people who are kind of in your same group, and you take classes together, and then you meet once a week to just kind of get you introduced. And so you'll do that for your whole first semester, and it's pretty cool.
That's a trig?
Yeah, trig
So
and UGS course.
Yeah, so at UT, they have the transfer interest groups. So they want to make sure transfer students succeed. They put you in a cohort, so you get to meet your peers, and then you get an assigned
Yeah, you get an
trig
assigned advisor, and then you will meet once a week. So like for me, I think mine meets on Mondays at 12:30. So it's pretty cool. It's not the Ascender program, but it's kind of like you get to be with those people, and you can take courses with them, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
My school's a little different.
Tell us how.
Yeah, so I couldn't go to orientation in person because I'm in Texas, and they have orientation mainly for freshmen. So when you're a transfer student, it's a bit different. They actually, instead of having like a orientation as a group before you actually enroll in into the school, they have it as a class. So during your first semester at the school, you meet with the group and they kind of help you get used to the school. They try and I haven't taken the class because I'm still here, but from what I understand, they help you, get used to the school, get used to the area, get used to all the facilities and things that the school offers. They even have transfer living communities where if you're out-of-state transfer and you want to meet another out-of-state transfer, you can apply for that housing type, and you'll be put with people that are in the same boat as you. The orientation I took was online. It was very short and quick, but I did go into in person and had a tour when I went and submitted my high school transcript. And when I was talking to them then, they said it wasn't too much of a difference from in person and online. Granted, online's a little less fun because you're not, at the school or whatnot. But it's a short process. It was really fun. You learn a lot. I learned a lot about what Boulder has to offer. And yeah.
Thank you. So I want to make sure that we have time for students here and on Zoom to ask you questions. So I have one last question from me for you all. Well, actually, no, let me make one other comment. I'm going to just share with everybody at the boot camp. Lori and Shannon participated in boot camp last year. Yeah. Yeah, I thought you all would clap for that one.
We need to have one of those applause buttons or the
Oh, like a
applause
big one?
lights to come up.
What is one piece of advice that you have for this group of current ACC students who are planning to transfer?
This is mine, and this is mine for all young people that I always tell young people. As a non-traditional...
And some older? Do we have some advice for
Yes.
older
This
students too?
pertains to us too, as to older people. This is what I always tell people. For me, I am, we all tell ourselves, oh man, if I only knew then what I know now. I am living in that, what I knew, if I only knew then that I know now. I graduated high school in 1996 from James Bowie High School up on Slaughter Lane. So for me in high school, if you look at my high school transcript, don't look at my high school transcript. My GPA was not high. I mean, I'm talking C's get degrees kind of a thing. I barely got through, and that's because I just never did homework. I was just like, I don't want to do homework. My thing for you is, one, just go for it because you never know, the worst people can say is no, but don't waste your time. Take every course that you need to take your course. Don't waste your time in the sense of, oh, I'll just take it again. Why waste your time? Just do it, get it over with, turn in the assignments, get it done, and join some clubs because you'll have some fun. You'll meet a lot of really good people, and join PTK if you can. It's a good one.
So PTK is Phi Theta Kappa. You get scholarships through Phi Theta Kappa.
You can get scholarships, and Phi Theta Kappa, the PTK, is the only recognized honor society. So if you apply to UT or you apply on the Common App or the Apply Texas, it'll ask you specifically, are you a member of PTK? And if you're a member, you can say yes. And if you're not, can't check the box. Do it.
I'm going to be brutally honest because I feel like you guys really need full transparency. One of the main things that I really would recommend for you guys to be really successful in your application process would be to really truly be your authentic self. As corny as that sounds, I know that if you really take some time to really find out what your values are, what are some of the things that you really, really, really care about, write those down. Even if you don't have a full essay, really write those things that really are important to you, that you really feel like you could disclose to somebody, because really that's what they're going to look for when reading your essays. And I think there's going to be a lot of workshops for you guys to really kind of really start to, sharpen that whole essay, but really it starts off with you really truly being honest with yourself. Another thing is grades. I know it seems like it doesn't matter, and just to make it completely relatable for you guys, my GPA was probably a 3.78. And for my specific degree plan, I think it was such a competitive, everyone was looking for a 3.8 or 3.75. And I remember in early January, I had like a 3.7 and I'm like, I lost it. Iram, I'm not getting in. Like it's over for me. And I had straight A's, and the only class that I ever got a B and a C in was US history. So yeah. And it really kills me. And I really thought it was over. But I really wanted to provide those numbers for you guys, because you guys are probably sitting there and we're all talking about GPA, and you're like, well, I need to know whose GPA it was that I can relate to. So I'm throwing those numbers there just because I feel like it would have helped me knowing there, because I know that there are students that have 4.0s and did not get in, and there are students that have 3.5 GPAs that got in.
And 3.0.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Nice. So what really matters is, like I said, and you know, the workshops will really help you kind of figure this out, but your essay does matter. What you say there does matter, because it really comes to figuring out who the student is, and grades can only tell you so much about that. You know what I mean? So, and what I said earlier was what they really want is well-rounded students, people who have persevered through challenges, who have come back around and kind of like really paved the way to come up on top again. And so that's something that really helped me, and that's some of the advice that I can possibly give you guys. Also, check your emails.
Check your emails.
Oh my God. If you guys knew how many like opportunities come through your emails. For me, organizations were not something that were like paramount for my success in transferring. I would say for me, it was much more the programs, because out of those programs is where my letters of recommendation come from. Ascender is where I not only met like my mentor, but he was also a professor who also helped me kind of find like my voice in literature and all these other things that, you know, so many other things. So I would also say, don't worry so much if you don't have a social circle here at community college, because a lot of people are doing what we're all doing here, and that's just using ACC. We're using ACC as a stepping stone to get to our next level, right? And our next level might not be here. So a lot of other students are doing the same. They want to come in, they want to get out. But your full social circle does come out. And ironically, like my favorite person is a Gen Z who's like 19. And it's like we socialize about academics all the time. And I'm just like, wow, you're so smart. And they're like, wow, you're so smart. I'm like, we're smart. So it's really interesting how like it really comes full circle, because sitting at ACC, I was probably over there in the corner with like nobody around me and all my UT gear. And I'm just like, y'all wait and see. And now I am.
You did wear your UT shirt to boot camp last year, I remember.
And now it's like, here I am. I made it. Thanks, Mom.
Shannon, we have a surprise for you.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I brought your U.S. history professor here, so you can ask them what. No, I'm kidding.
No, oh my God.
The one
I was
class.
like, she would not
just said
show
the
up.
One class, I gotta see it.
I don't know. Yeah, U.S. history was
Not for you.
triggering for me. I'm
Who
like
did you have?
really.
No,
I'm not saying
yeah,
that.
we can talk
I'm
about
not that
professors
transparent.
later. Y'all can ask Shannon after class. What
No,
professor-
I had a
It
great
wasn't-
U.S. history professor, Professor Zides. If you're out there, hello, hi. She was great.
For me, it wasn't about the professor. For me, it was like history tends to repeat itself, and I had very strong issues with like, why are we not talking more about the Chicano movement? Why are we not talking more about slavery? So there were just certain topics that I really wish we would expand on, instead of like George Washington or like, you know, all these other things were like, okay, we know what
You
he
gotta take
did.
Mexican American studies or something.
But yeah, so that's me.
Some advice I have is just be persistent. Some people send like one email, they don't get a response in like 2 days, and they'll feel like, oh, if I send another, I'm going to be annoying. But the people's job at the admission boards is to help you get in contact with you. So if they see that you send, 15 emails versus one, they're gonna know who you are. Not to say that I sent 15 or anything like that, but yeah, and then once you do get to get in contact with everyone there, I visited the campus, and every person that was on the other end of those emails I met, because now they know who I am. So when they're responding to me, it's more personal. They're like, oh, let me help him out because he was so kind to come and introduce himself. And that makes a huge, huge mark on how they see you. Because not many people know that you're able to just walk into the admissions office and say hi. It's something you're allowed to do. And I would just say take that, courageous step, be persistent, and kind of show the people that are at the school you're wanting to who you are. Like they said, the worst they can say is no. And even same, if they say no, but you know who's there, they can help you out to get where you need to be to get in, the next semester. So I would say persistence is probably the biggest one for me.
We have two. Devin works in the Career and Transfer Center, along with another wonderful student named Mert. And one day they were laughing and they were like, how'd you get this job? They were like, we just kept showing up and asking, do you have a job? Is there a job? Is there a job?
This is true.
And now they both work here. So that
That is true.
persistence paid off. All right. Do you all have questions? We're going to have a microphone come to you in a second. We got one over here and then one over here.
Hello, everybody. My name is Quan, and I kind of have like a two-part question, but just answer it as quickly as you possibly can. I've always been the high five guy, people pleaser. That's just who I am. I can't read between the lines. I need pure bluntness, so I need some tough love from you guys. How did you guys find balance between work, school, and personal life, managing it all? And do you guys have to learn how to say no to things in order for those to be possible?
Can you make it for?
I know, just from my experience, I am a wife, I am a mom, and an older student, and I have my family. My mother's on dialysis. I have to take care of my mom. It's really hard to manage your time. I think meeting with your advisors, making sure that you're crossing your T's and dotting your I's, making sure that you're taking the correct courses, being organized in that manner. And you just have to prioritize yourself. I always tell everyone, let your yeses be yes and your no's be no's. I learned that at church, and it's one of the things that I will never forget. If you can't do something, if you know that you're not going to put your 100% into something, just say no. It's okay to say no to people. It's okay to say, hey, you know what? I can't do that right now. Or, oh, you're asking. I know that somebody can come up to you and be like, hey man, I need you to do me a favor. If you can't give your whole heart, just say no. Just don't overdo yourself, because at the end of the day, the only person that you're hurting is yourself. So it's a balance, and it takes time. For me, having my husband to support me and say it was okay for me to go to school while I went to school full time and he worked full time. I mean, he worked his butt off. He works about 80 hours a week. So for me, I'm like, you do that, I'll take care of the rest. So having somebody to help me though.
Yeah, I would agree. I would say don't overextend yourself. Overextending yourself, you're really just gonna end up with more conflict in your life. I would say if you already know within 2 weeks that you're not gonna bond with that professor or that professor time frame or that class time frame or whatever's drop the class. You know what I mean? It really, you're allowed 6. Use one of them, especially if you're gonna try to preserve your mental health. So yeah, for sure, I would say learn to say no. Absolutely. If you can't do it, if you know you're not going to wake up at 8 a.m. to take that lab for biology, don't do it. Because there's going to come a time and place in your academic career where you are going to have to say yes, even when everything is telling you there's a no. But if you're still considering transferring and you're still starting off, I think there's a lot more leeway there to say no than there is a yes, for sure.
Is your name Quan? Did I get that right? Yeah. What I would say is, personally, I was in a position kind of like that, where I had to figure out what my priorities were. My first semester at ACC, I was working full-time and doing a full class load. And for those who've done that, it doesn't work out very well. So I wish then I knew that, I don't have to rush things. I would just say, take your time, do what you know you can do. If work is more needed, then, if you need to pay more bills and you need to get that done, focus on that first. ACC has a lot of, is very flexible. I ended up taking night classes, so I'd get off work and I would take night classes. And that helped me out a lot. Instead of taking, 2 days off a week, I would just come in after work. But I would put yourself first in the sense of figuring out what priority you truly want at that time and what you can manage, because doing all of that is too much. You'll get burnt out. And there's no rush, it's your path. Don't try not to compare yourself to where other people are at. Some people are, out at UT, out of high school. You may not have had that opportunity, but don't take that onto yourself. Don't, burden yourself with that, because at the end of the day, it's your life, your story, and you get to choose how you move forward with that. So did that help at all? Okay. He said, how do you deal with saying no? I've always been a kind of a blunt person, very direct. So I haven't had an issue saying no to many things in my life, but there are times where it is hard to say no, or, when you're talking to your professor and they're asking like, hey, why didn't you do all of this work? It's like, well, I'm working, like I don't have the time, or, having that conversation with your advisor saying, I can't manage this, it is very difficult. I would say just kind of find it in yourself of what you want, and then if you truly want it, it'll become a little bit easier for you to say no to something that you don't want to do. Because if you are very determined to go to school, you're going to be very persistent in going to school. And if you're not, then it won't be, it'll be easier if you are. So I would just kind of find where your priorities are within yourself and kind of just figure that out.
I wondered how the panel dealt with the stress of transferring, because I'm stressed.
Who else in here is stressed?
For me, my biggest thing is take it one step at a time. Don't look at the whole list as a whole, because if you do, you're just like, this is overwhelming. I'm never going to get to the end. This is impossible. I literally took it one day at a time. Took it not one day at a time, but one task at a time. 1 week I worked on one thing, and another day I worked on another thing. I'm the worst. No, I am the best procrastinator. I am one of those ones that they said, oh, it's going to be extended a few days. I was one of those ones. I'm turning in my application at 11:59. So it's, it's okay. You're just being here and knowing that you're going to start the process. That's really good, because don't be like me, who started like, oh yeah, I'm going to get to it, because you keep thinking there's more and more time. And I was one of those, oh, I'll start working it on the last month. But again, take it one task at a time. Work on one thing at a time. Know everything that you're going to work on. Know that, okay, at some point I do need to get my transcripts. Get the stuff that you can get done out of the way. Get that stuff done out of the way and submit that stuff, because on I think it's the Apply Texas, you can do stuff in intervals. Like, you don't have to have the application open and submit everything that day. There are different times that you can submit it before you actually render the payment and do the full submission. So take it one task at a time.
Don't wait till 11:59 on the day of the deadline.
Don't do that.
I would say get a dog. My dog has been like my emotional support through this whole time, whether it was like screaming at my laptop or just yelling, a lot of yelling. But Yeah, no, honestly, it takes really having somebody outside your circle of education to really help put things in perspective for you. I would say make sure you have somebody that you can vent to that is not part of academics, that they can really sit there and listen through your anger and your frustration. Because eventually they're going to be there to support you. I mean, I can honestly say I had a whole village here in ACC that were like all supporting me. I mean, my God, I was at work and Renee was like, "Did you get the letter yet? Did you get accepted yet?" And I'm like, "Renee, I'm at work." But I was so scared.
At work, that's what I was
Her job was to make sure her job was complete. It's complete. But no, yeah, it was a lot of stressful. But looking back at it, I was just like, wow, I had a whole village behind me, and at the time, I did not know it because I was so consumed by work. And I had my advisor like reaching in, like, "Are you good? Are you good?" I had my professors who I had kept since day one of Ascender, all the way through and through, making sure that, I was okay. And eventually, these were the people that I turned to when I needed anything that involved academics. But just as important as they were, I also had people outside of that realm that were there to really support me and make sure that I was okay. So it's good to separate your circles and not have all your eggs in one basket. I think that's important, so you have places to turn to when you can't, exactly focus on the road that you're on, for sure.
Mine is, I'm a very visual person. I personally will write down all my goals. So it's like, hey, I need to finish this essay. I need to do this. I need to do, task X, Y, and Z. And I'll write it out, and I'll write the steps that it takes there to get there. And I'll kind of make a timeline. And that way I in my head won't think, 10 steps ahead. And then if I'm ever like, oh, I'm lost, I don't know what to do, it's like, oh, I already wrote it out. I think that's a good way to manage it. I don't know if you can always negate 100% of your stress. I think there's always going to be some stress there. But I do know if you write down and you create that plan before you actually take the first step, it'll help you visualize the whole process, and it'll help you kind of relieve that anxiety of like not knowing what's going to happen. So yeah, I would recommend doing that.
So some of the things today I heard: start early, make a timeline, plan, get involved, get a dog. I like that piece of advice. 2 dogs, okay. He has 2. You might
But
need a third.
financially, remember that you financially have to feed them and take them to
Take
their
them to the
vets and
vet.
stuff. So if you can't afford it, don't do it. It's more stress.
I want to thank you all for being here. Let's thank our wonderful future. I think at this time we will end the Zoom.